Welcome to my African dream. If you were born in Africa or you spent part of your life in Africa, you're connected to the continent in the most special and unique way, whether it's your DNA, your passions, or your dreams. Now, my African dream is about you, an African with a dream. And the dream might be for your continent, it might be for your country, it might be more personal, something for your family or your business or for yourself. But we all have an African dream and it will remain an African dream. So today I am welcoming Gerhard Perold of the Perold Wine Cellar, who is the champion of South African wine, to share his African dream. And in the words of Vicky Sampson, when she sang about my African dream, Gerhard, what makes your heart beat?
What makes my heart beat? Thank you very much. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to do a little interview with me. My heart beats because of being alive and being in this beautiful world we're living. And every day you open your eyes and you just look outside in the nature around our busy lives, and you just have a little bit of a quiet time, and you can just take in, reflect on what is life, and the main goal of your own life and your personal life. And mine was always going back to Africa, and my heart will always beat because of my nation, my country. Yeah.
And also, I think rugby makes your heart beat. You were just at rugby training this morning, weren't you? That's a very South African thing to want to do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I suppose, being at coaching this morning, coaching some young kids and see them running around and being happy and being with their friends, especially in this time we are living at the moment, is just amazing. To see them running around, and rugby, yeah, definitely being a South African boy, rugby is a big part of my heart, and actually probably my dream when I was little was probably most of all, and I mean probably most South African boys growing up is looking up at those personalities in the Springbok team, and your dream mostly would be to become a Springbok rugby player.
Oh yes, I agree with that. So what was life growing up? What was it like in Africa?
Yeah, I think Africa is a continent that growing up as a small boy for me was a pleasure. You know, I've experienced a lot of different adventures in growing up. You know, I was born down in Cape Town and lived there for a little bit up the coast, about 2 hours up the coast in a little place called Kleinmond. So that sea air and the fynbos is sort of a memory in my body and my mind, really, rather than in growing up, because a lot of things will take me back to that. But then as a little boy, I grew up in different areas in South Africa, and part of that was up in some Sabi near the Kruger Park. So that played a huge part in my life, and that's probably where I fell in love with conservation work and the wildlife of South Africa. Before I have grown up a bit more and create my rugby love in Pretoria, basically, as a small boy. Yeah.
So what are your fondest memories of growing up? Was it playing sport? Was it being outdoors? What's the thing that sticks out for you the most?
For me, I would say it's probably being out in the bush, out in the outdoors. I remember as a small boy, we were living on the forestry station outside Sabi, small little town in the Highveld in South Africa. Most people will probably never heard of Sabi, only for people who lives up there, really. I remember my parents worked just across from our house at the forestry station, and I was just playing at home with my nanny under the tree outside with little toys and bits and pieces, and yeah, a lot of my time was barefoot, playing outside. So outdoors has always been a love of mine. I've never been a boy really being inside the house. It's more getting dirty outside now.
Which is, I think, an African thing, you know, because of the weather as well. We do love being outside, and I think that's one thing we do miss a lot when when we're in other parts of the world. So your DNA is absolutely soaked with wine. Tell us about that.
Well, yes, if it isn't rugby and if it isn't the wildlife, then yes, the other part, and that's probably my arms and my legs is the sport, and some of my mind is in the nature, but my blood is definitely red. Definitely the color of wine, a nice deep red pinotage, because of my heritage in the South African wine industry. Yeah, I've told the story plenty of times, and it's always a pleasure telling it again, because it's just such an amazing part of my life, and what I do. Yes, my great-grandfather in 1924-25 sort of went on one of his excursions around the world, and he was in Europe doing some research work for the vinicultural world. And he took 2 plants from there back to South Africa, and the one is a Pinot Noir and the other one is Sensa. And when he got back into Stellenbosch, where he lived at the time, in his back garden, he sort of pollinated 2 plants by brushing them together. And from that pollination came a plant where there was 4 seedlings that he planted in his back garden. And from those 4 seedlings comes all the pinotage in the world. So yeah, that heritage is a great big part. But saying that, that's pinotage, our own grape variety from South Africa. So as fantastic as it sounds, it's been through its own journey as well, and a lot of ups and downs. So in the beginning years, actually even before pinotage was there, my great-grandfather then started to work for KWV, one of the big producers in South Africa, and very close to me, and I work quite closely with them as well. Actually, just Joe Watsack, who does his own sort of wine coaching program on the UK, the other night mentioned that the KWV Mentos Pinotage, the KWV Mentos Perold Tributum that they create in memory of my great-grandfather is the first wine he ever gave 100 points to. So that's an amazing, amazing feeling to feel that, to have a wine that is created in memory of my great-grandfather's work to reach the most points you can get in a wine in the wine world. So that's quite something, really. So
that's amazing.
Really be nice to be part of. Yeah.
Yeah. So did wine play a role in your life at all when you were growing up?
Yes and no. I suppose in the beginning when I grew up, of course, not a lot. But then when you in South Africa, it's maybe a little bit like France. When I was about 10 years old, you would start to have this little bit of wine in a little small cup on a Sunday roast, and you would set that away with a big glass of water next to you, maybe. And every sort of year, you increase the little amount you get until you sort of enjoy and you can appreciate.
A whole bottle on your own.
And you might have a glass. A bottle is a bit later. That's the time when your parents don't know and play. Yeah, and I suppose that sort of learned me a little bit about alcohol and alcohol use rather than drinking. And for me, a lot of times when we went on holiday, because at the time we would have lived in Pretoria, we would go down to Cape Town on holiday, and we would visit the wine farms, and we would do those little wine trips, and you'd have a chance to taste wines and bits and pieces, and with your cousins, and sort of playing around with it. And I think my love for wine, I fell in love with wine then, but it's actually much more later when I was here in the UK, in the last 4 or 5 years or so, that I really fell in love with my heritage and really decided that, you know what, this is something that's close to me and is part of my DNA, as you say, and I really need to do something with this. I love it. I grew up with it. I have the heritage. I'm in a country where I can do this full circle, because part of my great-grandfather's work was not just the pinotage, but also importing into South Africa about 177 different grape varieties, and making that full circle now is taking those grape varieties that winemakers making this delicious wines in South Africa and bring them now into the UK public and further afield, hopefully one day, and to give that to Europe really to taste.
Do you feel a sense of responsibility from your DNA that you really do need to continue this for that reason?
Maybe a little bit, but actually I think it's more a passion and a love of mine rather than a sense of I need to do this. Yes, I need to do it in one way, but for me it's a great big pleasure. It's one of my great things is people, and for me it's about giving to people. Last night again I just done a private function with someone where I had a wine and food pairing evening, and just telling those people, and you can just see the smiles and how interested they are in what I'm doing and what I'm telling them, and that makes me more happy than any £1 million behind my back. I mean, yeah, no one's going to say no to $1 million. But,
yeah, if you have $1 million and you don't know what to do with it, you know where I am.
Well, yeah, if I do have $1 million, then I would give it back to my wine industry, because without them, I won't be here. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you originally came to this country, you had a dream. What was the dream when you suddenly decided I'm getting on a plane and I'm going to the UK? What was in your heart and your head then?
I think, yeah, my dream came a little bit later. I think for me, it was trying to find myself was probably my dream at that point, or my vision really is coming over to the UK to sort of really find myself as a person. Because as lovely as it is to growing up in South Africa, sometimes you could be not giving the chance to express yourself as much as you would like as being a human being. Coming over to the UK, learned a few lessons, being young and stupid, but actually also created me as who I am today as a business person. And, you know, the nice thing was that actually coming over here in my background from growing up helped me to become what I am, but becoming my own person and what I am today. And my dream came later on with the wine, I think. But
so you were working.
My dream. I think a person's dream change through life.
They do. Oh no, absolutely, they change. I mean, what did you want to do when you grew up? What was you wanted to be a Springbok rugby player? Did you?
Yeah, I think probably as a boy, I grew up, and my parents, and you know, people close to my parents would know that my imagination is wild. And I see it in my little young 7-year-old daughter. She's the same. She's playing out there, and she's everything. She play out and act out stories in the movies she's watching, and she's just creating this world around her. And I was the same when I was that age. I could be all 30 rugby players and the referee and the sides and the crowd at the same time, playing with a ball in the back garden, and be the star rugby player. And I think most part of my life when I was growing up, that would have been probably what I would have loved to do and become. Schoolwork was maybe not my
it's not our strong point.
Not my strong point, that's for sure. But
so you went into retail when you were in the UK. Who or what made you decide I'm leaving now and starting my own business?
Yes, first of all, I was in hotel trade, working my way up from bar work up to management, and then I decided I wanted to try something different and went into retail. And I had a few management retail positions in different supermarkets and chains and stuff. And while I was at Sainsbury's, I met my lovely wife, Nikki, and yes, working away and working long hours, and sometimes we won't see each other. We're working. She might start 7 o'clock in the morning till 4, and I start 10 till 7. Or and at the end, I was working a night shift, you know, and she was doing day shift. So we never really had time for each other. I got really crocky and grumpy and stuff because I didn't get enough sleep. Sorry?
Hurtful. You got hurtful.
I was really hurtful for working for someone who doesn't appreciate really what I do. It felt like just a number, doesn't matter how much you do. And you know, and you just get into this turmoil of downfall and downfall, and it's like, where am I going? And your life at work is not great, and your life at home is not great, and you're like, this is not right, and there's something wrong here. And where's the balance of having a family life? You know, being a South African, your family is your life.
Yeah.
And it felt like work was our life and nothing else. That needed to be readjusted. And I then, before that, I wanted to always do my own business, and wine was always a little bit in the background. And I spoke to Nikki. And then, so she was a big part of me pushing me into what I wanted to do and doing my own thing. And actually, Tim and Vaughan Pearson from Seven Springs Winery was my final push over the line, really. I met them just across the road from me as a little cafe here in the village. And they came to see me, and I tasted their wines. And that's what I said earlier on about the fondest. I tasted their Sauvignon Blanc, and as I smelled it, what came into my head was my memory in the fondest in the Cape. And I was like, I could smell it in the wine, and I loved it. And I spoke to them, and they sort of heard what my passion is and my plan for business and stuff. And they said, yeah, you need to do it, but you need to do it sensibly. And from there, I walked away back over the road with a bigger smile on my face, knowing that is what I was going to do. I'm going to promote South African wine. And walked back in here, and I said to Nikki, I'm ready now. This is what I'm going to do. And she stand by me every day of my life. She's supporting us at home, and she's my sort of rock behind me, standing in front, talking wine and selling wine. She's the one who really drives me behind me. So yeah.
And I believe she makes the best cook sisters ever for a British girl.
For a British girl, I tell you, yesterday she made some for the private function I had, and yes, I think that was. I don't think anybody else could have made a more perfect cook sister.
Oh, that's high praise. That's high praise. Now, yeah. So you had a shop, and then you had a tasting room, but of course, coronavirus has had an impact on your business, and you've now taken everything online. So tell us a little bit about how that's working.
Yes, I suppose sometimes you need to, as a small business, if you want to keep going, you need to adapt to times, and adapting is exactly what I've done. Online was a very, very small part of my business. We had our shop and our tasting room, and at the time, just as coronavirus came in, a friend of mine wanted to open a farm shop, and I saw this opportunity to adapt. And I said to them, use my unit, take it over. As long as I can sell my wine in there, then we square. And they took over the shop and it's now a nice little farm shop up the road with our wine selling in there. And I focused then on online, where for me, at that time, before Corona, the online was a very, very small part of my business. Because you always have so many million things to do in a business, running your own small business, to try to grab every opportunity. And I just needed to work on online, and I never had the opportunity. And actually, you're looking at something as bad as the coronavirus comes along, but actually that gave me that opportunity to focus on online. And so far it's been brilliant. I mean, the online sales is just rocketed up in the beginning. And had a bit of up and downs, but it's very stable now, and it's just keep on growing, and my faces just kept on putting by beautiful people like yourself in front of people, and the online is steadily growing and helping me to put my business back to where it needs to be from before Corona.
Brilliant. Yeah. Now, so the South African wine industry is really struggling, and that is partly because there's no sales inside of South Africa allowed. There's a ban on alcohol, but also because people aren't working necessarily on the wine fields and on the vineyards, etc. So here we are from a distance, and we want to do what we can. How can we help?
Yes, yeah, it is a very, very sad time in the wine industry in South Africa, and people are losing their jobs. You know, lots of people are struggling. I just the other day had a meeting again with some winemakers on Zoom, and they are desperate for people to support them. I mean, they are doing deals of 50% in South Africa to help on orders. They can't send it out until the ban is lifted, just to help them out, you know.
So does that mean that if we order now here in the UK, that doesn't necessarily mean that they can export it just yet?
No, that the export has been lifted, so at least we can get our stock
Okay.
in for the last 4 weeks or so. It's been lifted, but the ban, the sale alcohol sale ban was in South Africa on for most of the time. Then they allowed sales for 2 weeks, I think it was, and then banned it again. You know, you're not talking just the industry of the wine industry. There's the restaurants. There's everybody. You know, there's that whole chain of businesses that really employ so many people in the country, that is just in tears really at the moment, and they are really worried. People, as their livelihoods, it's not just losing their business, it's losing their lives, and that's a really sad time at the moment. But at least we can export, even if it's coming in a bit slow, but we're still here and we can support them really in the UK. And this is where we need to really get people behind South African wine. Whatever you can do is please buy South African wine, because that will just help the industry. And if you help the wine industry, that will help the restaurant chain industry, that will help the other businesses around it. So yes, I think
basically buying South African wine. We all enjoy wine, but at the moment, if we could do what we can, go into a supermarket, buy online, go to peroldwinecellar.com.
Please, yeah, come to me. No, yeah, wherever you can. For me, is buying South African wine, but please have a look at the individual wineries you buy from. Just be careful and mindful when you buy. Have a little bit more interest into, just go and buy a bottle of wine is not totally maybe the right thing to do. Is carefully look at what you're going to buy. Have a look, where does it come from? Where is it bottled? Needs the support, but there's guys who's smaller and there's guys who's bigger, and everybody needs the support, and anything you're going to do is going to help. But be mindful a little bit of, you know, it might be not your normal label you're buying. Go for something different. Go and have a look, or find out, ask someone, you know, and people like independent wine merchants around the country, like myself. If you ask us, we will support you in buying the right wine as well, to where that counts the most and stuff like that, you know, where we could really pinpoint and help those the people in need, really. Yeah.
Brilliant. So I would say now that the dream for Gerhard Perold is for South African wine now to be more enjoyed, and people to learn more about our wine industry, and to share the message about how wonderful our wine is. And then once the ban's lifted, to go and visit all our wine farms and vineyards in South Africa. I think that would be even better.
No, definitely. I think it's one of the most beautiful places to visit. There's a lot of my customers actually been into South Africa, and they tell me about, they don't know how it's going to be like, and they said it's such an amazing experience where you go to a vineyard where you pay a small little bit of money to go and taste their wines. Most of the times they will take you on a vineyard tour, and they will take you into a cellar tour, and they would have a little restaurant there where you can buy beautiful food, lovely prepared, and the scenery around you, and sipping on some of the best wines in the world. You know, for the money, value for money is amazing what you get. Yeah.
Best holiday. So just finally, everyone can find you on Instagram, and they can find you on Facebook and LinkedIn. So your website is at peroldwinecellar.com.
The peroldwinecellar.co.uk.
Okay, great. I'm sure they'll find it if they look. But thank you. That is brilliant.
No
and a final word from you about your African dream.
My African dream. Yes, as I said earlier, dreams would change. You don't dream every night the same dream. But for me, if my biggest dream would be to set up my own stoep in South Africa. But no, that would be part of it. My dream is big, actually. I've got a big dream. And biggest part
global.
of my dream, yeah, global dream. My biggest part of my dream would be to get my country to stand together and be stronger together. That would be the biggest dream I have at this point, really, because when that dream is fulfilled, I would sit on my own stoop in South Africa, and I would sip on a nice wine with friends and family around me. So yes, that would
Brilliant.
be, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your African dream. It really is something really very special to have a little wine celebrity down the road from where I live, which is great.
No problem.
So, you know, one of the things I just wanted to finish off with is alone, my dream is just a dream, as Vicky Sampson said in the song. But together, we can make a dream a possibility, and then it can become a reality. So in the spirit of Ubuntu, I am because we are. Thank you so much for joining us here on Celebrate Southern Africa. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you.